Oh, thank you. So hopefully my screen is coming up to share, and hopefully you guys can all hear me. Let me know, Maria, if anything's not looking right. Yeah, welcome. So this is a session that I've put together on algebra at phases 3 and 4, and I'll talk a little bit about why I've ring fenced it to that and things like that. So Outline of today, I will spend a decent amount of time orientating ourselves with these new curriculums. So we've got the published curriculum and the draft curriculum, and some of you guys might have spent quite a bit of time looking at these things, and some of us might. Maybe that's why you're at this session, is to get your head into the game on what these curriculums are saying a little bit. A couple of interactive moments in the presentation. One, we'll do a Menti pretty early on, just to hear what you're thinking about these documents so far. Then we'll start looking at what I think are some of the key bits for us to know about. So the whakatauki, the understand, know, do, the pedagogies that you mentioned just at the start of the teaching sequence, and what we're going to see in the teaching sequence. Some of you might have been Sunny's presentation. I wasn't able to be there, unfortunately. I'm not sure if there's crossover. I'll feel really good if there is, because I know Sunny's an awesome guy, and if he's thinking of stuff and I'm thinking the same, I'll feel proud of myself. But I'm hoping also that there's some stuff in my presentation that you guys will get out that is fresh and new for you as well. We'll get our teeth stuck into what phase 3 and 4 of this algebra stuff is going to look like for us intermediate high school teachers. And I've got a breakout activity at that point planned, so you better talk amongst some other teachers about particular parts of that algebra. And then by the end, we're going to look at some tasks and see, do they fit in this curriculum, and what language we might be using from a teacher's point of view to work with those tasks. You can access the slideshow. There are links in the slideshow, so I would encourage you in a side browser or something like that to type in bit.ly/2025 T2 Jared, all lowercase, my name. If you want a copy of that up, then that'll stay on for another slide or two as well. So a little bit about me. Thank you for the introduction, Maria. I teach at Western Springs College, Ngā Puna, Waiōrea. We are an interesting school. We're biggish, in Auckland scene, kind of maybe mediocre, but 1,800 students there. We, as you can see from our webpage photo on the left there, we are bicultural sort of a school. We're co-governance, so we have a normal board of trustees, and we have our Māori whānau also with governance roles in our school. So those two governing bodies are both making decisions about how our school works. So that's one thing that's special about us. Another thing that's special is probably very liberal looking sort of a school. As you can see in the photo down there, two things. Our kids are not in uniforms. They are male and female and whatever other gender they want to be. And that particular photo there, you see a dual teaching space, open learning environment with two classes of maths students at the same time. My kaupapa is mixed ability teaching. I really do my best to avoid streaming and all the pitfalls that come with that. I acknowledge that mixed ability teaching is not easy as well, and also has its own problems, but it's one of my ideologies. Other thing about our school is we have moved away from NCA level 1 in the last couple of years. The reason I bring that one up is that's probably why I've forced myself to spend so much time looking at these draft curriculums. Because if I'm not teaching NCA level 1 and I don't have standards telling me what to do, then I need a curriculum that's telling me what to do. A bit more about me. I was on the AMA exec for quite a number of years, organised the Calc Day and things like that, and now I'm organising these AMA online events, and that's why I'm presenting, because I wasn't good enough to get a seventh presenter for the day, so I thought I'd do it, and I've caused myself lots of work by doing it, but that's okay. I finished my Master of Professional Studies a couple of years ago in maths education. That was a really awesome experience of taking those postgraduate courses and so just let a couple more people in, and writing my dissertation eventually, which was on stuff around digital learning. So you'll get a little bit of taste for that in today's session as well. I am not. There's, I think, perhaps a ministry person here or two. I'm not involved in writing the curriculum. I'm not in the ministry. These views are my own. So yeah, take it that this is just a teacher's point of view. Okay, so what we're working with at the moment, and if you're in my presentation, those links will work. We have the year 0 to 8 curriculum. It is live. It is supposed to being taught from the start of this year by teachers of 0 to 8. And we have a draft curriculum, which had consultation finishing up just a little while ago. And so that document is still available and it will experience some changes, I'm sure, before we see the real one later in the year. But at the moment, it's our best taste of what we're going to be teaching next year. So that's I'm going to give you guys a chance to go to this Menti, and there are just a couple of questions in there. I want to know a little bit about your experience with reading these curriculum documents. If it's nothing, that's cool. Now I know that. If and a little bit more about what your thoughts on the old curriculum and things like that were in there. So there's two slides of questions which I'll just move over to now. So if you go to menti.com on your phone or computer, so the QR code, if you want to use your phone, is a nice way to get there. And I need... Okay, so there's the first question. So there's a scale there that you guys can position yourself. You don't have to answer anything if you don't want to. There's my data ethics. Well, actually, maybe some of them you do. I can't remember if I ticked them all off. If anyone's having troubles with that, pop it in the chat and maybe I'll just get Maria to let me know if troubles are coming up. Looks like we've got 7 people who have made it in there. Cool. First response is in, awesome. So yeah, I pitched this workshop at people in the intermediate sector and in the secondary sector. So some people have looked more at those documents than others. Where 4 people respond, I'll move on in about 30 seconds onto our next slide. Okay, so just before we do, some worries about the Year Zero Day curriculum there from the people who have responded to that one. The draft one looking slightly more positive, but people still a bit unsure about how good it is going to be for our future generations. And people are a little bit more happy with the 2007. And I don't know, your perspectives might change after this presentation, knowing a little bit more about what this new curriculum is, but that's really interesting. So thank you. Okay, so if I move on to my next question, these are word clouds. So if you could keep your responses to small phrases, 1 or 2 words would be really helpful. If you write long sentences, the word cloud is a little bit hard to work with. So you should have space to write between 1 and 3 words or short phrases. If you haven't read any of the new curriculum and you don't want to respond, that's a sensible thing to do. Cool, thank you. Don't know if anyone's been talking to English colleagues. The one about openness makes me think about the suggested texts that are sitting in their draft curriculum at the moment. think with a lot of things, and particularly curriculums, structure is really important, but also flexibility and a balance between those two things. Okay. Again, I'll just go another 30 seconds to see where we end up with that, and then we'll move back into my presentation. Okay, thank you. So a couple of key diagrams just to orientate ourselves with where we're heading today. So the top one is laying out what maths looks like right across year 0 to 13. So of course, I said in the presentation, we'll be looking at phases 3 and 4. So that's years 7 to 8 and 9 to 10. And algebra is going to be our focus because it's only a 45-minute session. However, you can't really read this curriculum and just focus on one thing. As you can see through the way that those don't know if I should use the word strands, threads, maybe those threads are woven together. We when we're talking about algebra, we do have to talk about the understand and we do have to talk about the do stuff as well. I think we also need to know our whakatauki and think about that as well. So anō mihi he whare punga Waiōrea is our new whakatauki with these new curriculums. Behold, it is like the web of a spider. And I think they mention it in the explanation there, the interconnectedness and the strength that maths can be when we understand how things connect with each other. So if I'm talking about algebra, sometimes I'm also talking about other aspects of mathematics as well, or connecting it to, and that's something that we'll see in the do section quite a bit. Okay, so I'm going to run through firstly the UKD stuff that's relevant to today. So this is phase 3. It's page 84 if you've got your printed curriculum out or anything like that, in the live 0 to 8 curriculum. So we see the understand column down the left-hand side, and we see our knowledge section in the middle there. And on page 85, there's more. So I've just stopped there because this is where we see our bits of algebra. This is the knowledge that year 7 and 8 students should be gaining, or the context that they should be doing their algebra work in. Okay, then we move to the phase 4 and similar setup. In fact, the understand, and I'm pretty sure about this, the understand in both phases is identical. There is no difference in the wording of those. The strands, again, if I'm allowed to call them that, in the knowledge part are the names of them are identical, but obviously the level goes a lot higher. I found it quite interesting. These when I read the old curriculum, it came across quite skillsy. The AOs, these ones kind of, in a way, these sound a little bit more like what I would have called understandings. How kids understand a piece of mathematics, but the wording is knowledge here. So we'll just put those aside for a second and come back to them because they're pretty important for where we're going today. So that the last part of UKD is the do. Okay, so this is the one from, I think, the year 0 to 8. And the reason I can't really remember very well is because they are pretty similar at most phases. So the one we see at phase 3 and the one we see at phase 4 is pretty identical. I wasn't sure how identical, so I got my friend Gemini to do an analysis of it. I put the text of those two in and found out exactly what the differences were. And I'm not expecting you to read that properly, but you can see there is 1 or 2 words per do that gets changed. And Gemini's summary down there, the differences are minor additions or expansions, generally indicating a slight increase in specificity or comprehensiveness in phase 4 text provided. The core meaning of each do aspect remains consistent. But of course, they are now doing it with high level knowledge as they move into phase 4 and then eventually into phase 5. Sorry. Okay, so that's really important that we get our head around the UKD stuff, and I think some people are making real efforts to reframe their teaching and use those ideas, and some of us might be a little bit slower on the uptake, but it's our new curriculum, so that's where we're going. Okay, so just putting side by side what the two algebra bits that I snipped out of those two phases are. So I'll leave those on screen for you to have a little look at, or if you've got access to the slideshow, you can read it a bit more clearly, perhaps. So when I submitted my feedback on this, I was reading through these and I got to this bit. Any positive real number has two square roots, one positive and one negative. And I actually got a bit stuck on that. I was like, do they? I'm not sure if that's the definition I remember. And so I did a bit of research and I was wrong. That is the right way to think about it. But yeah, my year 9 and 10 students wouldn't know that currently. So you will see stuff in here that provokes you to go, well, do my current students know these things? Do I teach them these kind of things? Is it something that I need to start to focus on? Okay, but yeah, we don't get quite the detail of what we're teaching at Algebra Phase 3 and Phase 4 by just looking at those two bits of text. So what comes next? We get these teaching sequences. So that comes from page 88 in the 0 to 8 curriculum, and page 30 in the draft 9 to 13 curriculum. Before they launch properly into the detail of what we're teaching in each of the different knowledge areas, we get a little bit of information about explicit teaching, positive relationships to maths, rich text, and communication. So I'm calling these the pedagogies that the curriculum is suggesting that we think about. I'm not sure what the official phrasing on those things is. Okay, and just remembering that all of that is tied into our UKD model as well. Okay, so again, I've done a bit of slicing because they're on different pages in the version I was looking at, but this is what algebra looks like at phase 3. And so we get information about what we should be doing in year 7, what we should be doing in year 8, and then you get the teaching considerations over to the right, which help us get a bit more detail. But I think what I really noticed by looking at these teaching considerations is these bold texts. So if we look at those wordings, they are the do's. Okay, so the writers of this curriculum are trying to help us understand how the do part of UKT can be integrated into the knowledge stuff. I do see a little bit less help on the understanding, but understanding is probably such big ideas that maybe by doing this other stuff we're already heading that direction. I'm not sure, but yeah, they make a real good effort to that. So that's our phase 3 and the phase 4. Oh, so I thought it was, and for the sake of this presentation and grouping you guys a little bit later, that I would just name some of these algebra sections as solve, substitute, simplify, and sequences and graphs. I'm not going to talk about algorithmic thinking today because it's just not enough time, and I've got a whole nother presentation for that some other time. Okay, so solve, substitute, simplify, and sequences and graphs is a way of dividing those up. This is our phase 4 one, same layouts. However, things get moved around a little bit. So solve is the second one down, substitute is below that, and above it was simplify. And there's two sections that I'm grouping together as sequences and graphs. There's a kind of a linear section and a non-linear section. All right, so what I'm going to do is I want to send you guys off into breakout groups for probably, when do I need you back? Yeah, probably about 10 minutes. So you'll go to one of the 4 breakout groups. Let me show you what the doc you'll be working in looks like. It's, gee, if I go onto my next screen, I can just open it. I have not done that very well. Yeah, I'm worried that this may not work very well, but we'll give it a go. So if you end up in group 1, you'll click here. or just scroll down to the page where it is. I've given you side by side what solving looks like at year 7 and 8 and what it looks like at year 9 and 10, and I've just popped the teaching considerations down just to save a bit of space. What I'm hoping you guys will do is in your little group, you'll be talking. You can share a screen between you if you want to, but you'll make some rough notes about what you're noticing by reading your little section. If there are any main takeaways that you get by reading your little section, and if you've got any questions that it's provoked, like, for instance, I might start to wonder, form and solve linear equations with rational numbers, solutions, and linear inequalities with positive coefficients. One of my wonderings there was like, well, how far do I take that? Am I looking at variables on both sides of the equation and things like that? So that's an example of how I might want a bit more detail about what's going on with this kind of stuff. All right, so if you end up in group 1, you'll be on that page. If you end up in group 2, you'll be on that page. If you end up in group 3, and so on. Maria, is that coming across clear enough?
Yep, that's all good. It's
Okay.
clear.
Okay. And it looked like someone was able to get into my doc, so you might have to click on that second link once you click on the first link. But yeah, if you guys could all just note down that link, pop it in a browser, bit.ly/NZC, lowercase doc. Algebra's got a capital in front of it, or use the QR code over the side there. So just before I group you, I'm not sure how many intermediate and secondary teachers we've got here, but your intermediate teachers are teaching phase 3, but it's also really interesting to know where your students are going at phase 4. So that's worth your attention as well. Secondary teachers, we're probably thinking about what phase 4 is going to look for us, but we need to know what these kids coming to us are. And I say the word expect or being exposed to when they're in phase 3, coming from the intermediates to us. So yeah, let me get the grouping sorted. I'll try to pop my way through most of the breakout rooms as well. So we'll do automatic, all groups, quite small groups. Hopefully that works out all right. Yeah, welcome back. Hopefully you found that productive to spend some time digging into what that teaching sequence was suggesting, just about one of those things. You will retain access to that document so you can read what some of the other groups put down. I got around to all the groups and had a little chat too, so that was cool. Okay, so I did promise that we would look at some tasks and maybe use those as a way of thinking about the curriculum too. So get to that. So yeah, I'm going to look at 3 tasks today. We're going to look at some visual patterns by Fawn. She was at our last maths NZAMP conference. I'm going to look at an activity from Don Stewart, UK task designer. And we're going to look at open middle task and think about the fit for these in our curriculum. So in terms of level, like which phase is it fitting at, which year level would we want to use something like this, and maybe also looking at the UKD on it as well. Okay, so first one. I won't try to teach this as well as Fawn does, but the idea of visual patterns is that we understand what the pattern is doing, and rather than relying on a table and how the numbers are going up in the table, we look at sort of the visual structure a little bit more. Okay, so maybe I'll present an option about how I might think about this problem. What I'm seeing is this line of symmetry here, and these kind of shapes on either side. And I see the same thing, but a row of 4 extra Fruit Loops has been snuck in there. And then I see the same thing again, these kind of shapes out here, and there's a second row of Fruit Loops. So I can tell that this is going up in 4s. And I could eventually turn that into an algebraic sequence by saying whatever the pattern number is, I take away 4, and that's how many kind of special rows there are. So this would be n minus 1 times 4 plus the original 8 that kind of started this thing. Okay, and we could simplify that and show it's a similar equation to other ways of getting there. But another student might go, oh, I'm seeing this 2 by 2 rectangle, then I'm seeing this 2x3 rectangle, then I'm seeing this rectangle here, but then there's these extra ones on top and they only come in at certain times. So that's a good way to explain the pattern. Well, okay. Probably harder to turn into algebra, but it's another approach. And we would see that they have the same algebraic simplification if we wanted to. So it fits across two of the parts of knowledge that we're looking at. So a chance to do a little bit of connection, I guess. Just thinking to ourselves, where does this sit in our new curriculum? A task like this. Is it phase 3? Is it phase 4? If it's phase 3, is it year 7, year 8? So you'd be wanting to look at that or that Google Doc that I gave you to get a bit more information about that. Okay. Spend very little time on this one because I've got to keep moving. Giving that one, we are probably recognizing this as a non-linear pattern as maths teachers. Other students won't pick that up quite as fast, probably. So the curriculum tells us that we start teaching non-linear graphs and patterns at phase 4. So it's not something that would be happening at intermediate school, but at some point in year 9 or year 10 would be expecting to broach problems like that. Okay, task number 2, shortcuts. So this is a task where kids are putting numbers into the system and completing the maths of it, and we get an output. And it's called shortcuts because we eventually, as a teacher, would say, okay, we had to do 3 things to get that answer. Is there a faster way of getting that answer? Cool. So I'm going to show you using Polypads a little bit about this task. I'm big into Polypad. If you've never seen it before, you'll get a little bit of a taste for it just now. So we've got some tools over here, and I'm in the algebra section right now. So you can see there are algebra tiles. If I'm quick, we might get to those, but probably not. The main one I want to look at is these function machines. Okay, so interesting, you guys were asked what your favorite letter in algebra is, and probably X is one of them. I'm going to use A, B, and C today. All right, so from memory, what was our first part of it? I need to flip back otherwise. I think it was +3. Okay, so this will allow me to put a number in here and it will add 3 to it and it'll come out. And I'm going to make it look a little bit like his, so it goes up on an angle first. Then it's immediately going to go into new function machine, and that is going to be called, it's going to take the B value and it's going to times it by 2. And that uses a dot in Polypad to show timesing. And then that's going to go for another process where whatever it was gets 4 subtracted from it. Okay, so we can pop numbers into this machine. It's quite satisfying watching it go through that process. Okay, so I got 18. I've already forgotten what number I put it in. Handily, you can use tabulate and it will keep track of these numbers. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to pop that on top of there. So it says basically 8 created 11 and 11 created 22. And 22 eventually gave me my final output of 18. That looks right now. Okay, so I put in 8. I better put in a different number and see what's going on. Okay, so I'm just experiencing numbers going through this process. Now, the idea of this task is that we go, well, 8 turned into 18 through 3 steps. Could it have been done faster? And can we make that happen every time we work with this? So this could be an exercise in pattern spotting. If we laid out my table a bit better, I might be able to see that there's a common difference of 2 and use that kind of technique. Alternatively, I could use the expressions that these are going through and look at what happens with the algebra. So I might show you that visually. I think I've maybe I'm over time already. But we could use algebra tiles and lay them out to prove that. Okay. Where would that fit in the curriculum is my question for you guys. Final task, open middle problems. So the idea of these is that you get a set of number cards that you're allowed to put in to make something true or close to being true or as large as possible, small as possible. So in this one, we're trying to achieve a set of outcomes where x greater than 2, I can read that off that, maybe our kids can't. X greater than 2 it ends up being the answer. So we'd be popping numbers in for this. I put this one in because it does start to talk about inequalities in our phase 4 part of the curriculum, which I hadn't been teaching in the past. I leave inequalities to year 11 normally, which would be phase 5. So just a little bit of a push from this curriculum to introduce inequalities a little bit earlier. Okay, I am kind of over time, so I'm going to be real quick. These are some links from the understand and the do that I thought could be made with the particular task that I just showed you. And I like curriculums. I find them a challenge, and I think I look for two things. I look for them to tell me that I am still doing some stuff right. So I want to see in a curriculum that there is some stuff that I can keep on doing, but I also want it to push me to change things. And so I'm also looking at that when I'm reading through these documents. And I don't think I want to get myself into a position where I'm just treating a new curriculum as a bunch of new words for the same old stuff that I used to do. I need to be using its structure and its guidance to actually push me forward and teach better. That's the point of a curriculum, is it's what is the valuable knowledge that our society of children needs to get. Okay, so sorry it's been a bit of a rush presentation. Hopefully you found the chat time in the middle and some of the stuff that I've shown you to be useful for you. I hope for many of you it's just maybe I need to have a little bit more look at these documents and get my head around them. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Jared, for sharing all your insight and your knowledge. It's actually really refreshing. There is it's called an alanga upu in Samoan, so it's similar to a whakatauki, which is o le ala I le pule o le tautua, which means the pathway to leadership is to serve. So I just want to acknowledge that although you're running the ship for AMA this year, you also led a presentation, which is huge, alongside leading your school in maths. Dad, have your dogs there, parent things outside world. So I just want to say thank you for also coming through. That's great and true leadership. Also, such glass half full. You use the words like, you like the curriculum. I hardly ever hear people say that. It's always been put in the bad books. And I really love how you've broken down the curriculum for us, even as someone who's not in the classroom, so that's easier to understand and not so overwhelming. So I just want to say thank you in this space, and also acknowledge your tuakana Robin in this space, who also used to previously lead AMA Online. So I just want to appreciate you both. But thank you for sharing. Love the algebra. That's okay, everyone, for not answering the chat. I won't take it to heart for the X. But yes, X is the letter often used. But some great sharing of theory and knowledge of the curriculum, but also some takeaways for a classroom teacher. I'm quickly going to share slides of any feedback you might have, any questions. Please chuck them to the chat or send it through email, amaonline.organizer@gmail.com. These resources and videos will be shared next week. What's coming up next on behalf of AMA and NZAP? I'm going to give you 10 seconds to read the 4 bullet points there.